These are my Logitech G930 headphones that I have had for about 3 years now. As you can see, they're starting to wear out. This plastic covering on the headrest is coming off. It's already come off almost completely on the ear cups. But what's happening right now, and what happened about a year ago, is that the micro USB port right here no longer charges when you plug in the cable. You can kind of get it to work a little bit if you plug it in there and then you angle it just right. Sometimes pulling it this way will charge it. And I was doing that and wrapping the cord around this headphone to keep it on that angle. But that's not working very well anymore either. So I'm going to open these up and hopefully show you guys how to repair that micro USB connection in there, resolder it so that it'll get working again like it should. Another thing to know about these headphones is that the plastic here and here will eventually crack around the 4 screws in that location. I've treated mine really well. I knew that there was a possibility they would crack, so I've made sure never to drop them. Regardless, they did crack, and they started cracking a lot. So as you can see, I put a bunch of epoxy on here. The epoxy's held the plastic together pretty well. I think it's helping them last a little bit longer, but that does seem to happen on your headphones regardless of how you treat them. So back to this cup here. To remove the ear foam, there are 4 little Phillips screws around it. So get your little trusty screwdriver and start taking those apart. Once you get that ear cup off, there are some really annoying miniature Torx screws in there. I just happen to have the right tool with me. This came from a Wii repair kit. I honestly don't know how you get in there if you don't have the right tool. But you can see, or maybe you can't. It's like a Torx security bit. There's even a hole in the middle of the Torx tool that you need to have there in order for this to work. Now this is the part that needs to be fixed. This is the inside of that micro USB connector. And after a while, the little solder points on the bottom edge of this connector here pop off of the circuit board. So they no longer make contact. In fact, there's 4 or 5 right there that I no longer see the connection point for them. I have to be careful because I'm about to tear that out as well. So this is really small soldering stuff. I've soldered a little bit before, but I haven't soldered anything this small. I'll get some close-up pictures of it as well so you can see that better. Okay, so you can see the micro USB connector here. There are some big anchor points on the corners of this connector. Those have popped out a little bit, but they don't provide any function other than anchoring down this connector. What's really happened is these 5 tiny, almost hair-like metal tongues here have become disconnected from each other. and you have to solder them together. As you can see, that I have right now a really small screwdriver, but it's still way big compared to those. So this is not an easy solder job. I did it once before. You can see some solder kind of gooped up on here, and that lasted about, I don't know, 8 months, but it's happened again. So I'm going to try to see if I can do it one more time. You can't see, but on those 5 little tongues there's a crack in them, and if I wiggle that USB port, they separate from each other just a little bit, and that's what's causing them not to connect anymore. So what I'm going to try to do here, I think, is use my soldering iron, and this is not the best soldering iron. It's really cheap. It was one of the cheaper ones at Radio Shack. It had a somewhat small of a point. I think what I'm going to try to do is get some solder on the tip point of the soldering iron, then hold that point on one of those little tiny contacts and see if I can get the solder to flow off and stay on the contacts. It's really tough. I'll use a headlamp to see what I'm doing, but it's really, if you can do it, fantastic. If you can't do it, don't feel bad, because it's really hard. Even with these problems on these headsets, I really like them. I'm probably going to buy another pair pretty soon. I think they're well worth it. I've used them every day for 3 years, around 3 years or so. My whole family uses them. So I think they're worth it. They're pricey, but you can get them on sale for around $100. And they work really well, and they sound really great. Anyways, I'm waiting for this to warm up, and then I'll go to town. I'm going to try to re-anchor down these 4 corners here real quick. I think there's 4. Oh, shoot. I can see the 5 pins a little bit better now. I think there's a little bit of solder on them, so I'm going to try just touching it and forcing it down to see if they'll re-solder back together. I think that one did. Second one. They may have resoldered just by tapping them slightly. Try to get this back corner reconnected down. Sometimes just remelting the solder and having it stick back to itself will do the job. I'm not sure if that's good enough. Let's test it out and see. Alright, I've got them reassembled. I tested it out already, it works great. I put it back together. I'll show you guys here. Plugging it in. Snaps in really well, and it instantly powers on. Even if I wiggle the cord back and forth, it stays powered, so it looks like it's working perfectly. What I ended up doing was just adding a little bit of solder to the 4 anchor points to hold them down to the circuit board better. And then I did not add any new solder to those little 5 contacts. I just kind of touched the contacts with the soldering iron and remelted what little solder there was there. It's not going to last forever. I'm sure it'll come apart again, and I'll be doing this in maybe another 8 months. But for the time being, this should last a little while, enough time to at least order a new pair if I want another one. And I'll keep doing this as long as I can. And hopefully, if you've got the same issue, you can get yours done as well. Good luck.